Hey YouTube, it's your favorite Cuban, Zat, and welcome to the first episode of MMO-Talk. During this episode, we will be discussing the current state of World of Warcraft and discuss different topics such as PvE, PvP, Mythic Plus, raids, and more. Currently, right now, World of Warcraft is in a... Well, before I begin, I'm just going to be playing WoW as I discuss this, just to be a little bit entertaining, but also give some feedback on the style of the game as well. But currently, World of Warcraft right now, Battle for Azeroth is it's in a weird state. I don't think it's in its best state. I don't find the game to be as entertaining as it used to be. I don't find myself playing the game either as much as I used to, especially during Legion. You know, Legion versus Battle for Azeroth is, quite different. A lot of content really lacking in Battle for Azeroth, whereas in Legion you always felt that you were working towards something, whether you were leveling up your artifact weapon or just grinding out legendaries by running Mythic Plus. Unfortunately, I can't say the same here for Battle for Azeroth. I just log in. I don't even raid anymore. I actually took a break from raiding just because the game wasn't fun for me anymore, unfortunately, and I didn't know what to do anymore. And I wanted to play other games that were coming out as well and invest time in those and not so much time in this as well. And the main reason is that I also came off Legion, where I played since day one till the very last day, grinding an artifact weapon from 1 to 34, and then from 34 to 52, and then from 32 up to like 75. It was a lot of grinding and a lot of playing Legion for 2 years. And then coming to Battle for Azeroth and having to level up and grind another item, which is your Heart of Azeroth necklace, just wasn't fun for me. And on top of that, my character doesn't even feel as powerful as it did during Legion. And unfortunately, that kind of sucks. It really sucks, actually. It's like my character digressed and didn't feel as powerful as it did, during Legion. But we'll touch more on the subject. So basically right now, Battle for Azeroth is centered around your Azerite armor and your Azerite necklace, which is the Heart of Azeroth. You level up your Azerite necklace in order to unlock more rings on your Azerite armor. As you get higher levels, you unlock deeper rings. This will all change in Season 2 for Battle for Azeroth when the next raid releases, which I believe is January 22nd. Now, unfortunately though, the design for the Azerite armor was originally allowed players to choose a trait that lines up with their playstyles. However, the big drawback to that is that sometimes the best traits, or rather, sometimes the traits that line up with your playstyle aren't necessarily the best trait for DPS, which then affects your meters during raids or during Mythic Plus, or even your damage when you're just doing PvE content. On top of that, and if we go back to Legion here really quick, Legion didn't have that problem. You chose to spec that you were going to play. Well, I take it back. There were some problems in Legion, kind of like Eon saying that, we're not going to nerf fire mages, and then first thing they do after Emerald Nightmare is nerf fire mages to the ground, and then Frost became the meta throughout. But anyway, that's a whole different subject. In Legion, when you leveled up your artifact weapon, you essentially got stronger. Let's see here. Do I have my artifact weapon in my bag? No, it's probably in my bank. But as you leveled up your your artifact weapon during Legion, you essentially made your character stronger. And that was either because you were either upgrading or unlocking new traits on your artifact weapon, and eventually getting damage boosts such as increased shadow damage dealt by 4%, increased damage done by Shadow Word Pain by 24%, and the list goes on. However, this isn't the case in Battle for Azeroth. The moment we lost our artifact weapon, our characters digressed we weren't as powerful anymore. And also, touching on this subject, and if you don't have the best Azerite trait, you're not going to be doing the best damage, you're not going to be doing the best healing, and you're probably not going to be tanking effectively. So this brings a lot of concerns that how is the Azerite system going to fix the problems that WoW is facing right now? Honestly, I applaud Blizzard for trying to, recreate the wheel and try out new things and stuff like that. But unfortunately, this system just doesn't work well. It doesn't allow me to play the style that I want to play. It also doesn't allow me to do the most damage I want to do if I don't have those right traits. And on top of that, a lot of these traits are extremely useless, when it comes to a raid scenario or a PvE scenario. And the fact that you have to respec in order to get different traits, and then the cost of gold. And even though a lot of that has changed in the patch 8.1, it doesn't change the fact that it still exists in the game, and it's still not good or healthy for the game. And going back to the artifact weapon, as I mentioned, our characters were progressively becoming stronger, whereas our necklace, we're just getting a higher item level. We're getting higher stats, but the tune does not feel more powerful than it did before. Now, another issue comes going back to Azerite armor. Now, it's a balancing issue. It's difficult enough, and this goes for all play styles of the game, whether if you're a PvEer or a PvPer. This affects all styles of the game. But it's difficult to balance classes and specs and then balance Azerite armor, or Azerite traits. There are a lot of different variables, or rather not variables, but there are a lot of different possibilities of what your Azerite traits can be and how it affects your playstyle, etc. Now, the game is extremely difficult at the moment to balance in terms of traits, in terms of classes, and in terms of specs. So you're balancing three things and juggling three different concepts in the air. Traits, classes, specs. It's too much. Previously in Legion, all you had to do was balance classes, specs, and maybe tweak the Azerite, the artifact weapon just a bit. But that's not the case in this scenario. You're balancing traits, multiple traits, not just one trait, but multiple traits. You're balancing classes, and you're balancing specs. It's a lot. I think it's a lot for the developers. I think it's a lot for the decision makers in Blizzard on what to do for the game. And overall, it's affecting their game tremendously, because sometimes, let's say being a Shadow Priest, for example, you may not want to get into the raid because your AoE is not the best. Or maybe your single target DPS is not the best. Or maybe just Shadow Priests in general are just not good. And that's where this game, in my opinion, is suffering quite a lot due to balance issues. And again, going back actually for a moment, the game originally came out, I believe, was it the 28th of August? Shadow Priests were garbage. Elemental Shamans were garbage. Warlocks are garbage. A lot of classes were garbage. And it wasn't until December that they decided to finally balance that out. So almost 4 months of balancing issues that were affecting the game. And again, I think it goes back to the developers, where you're juggling traits, multiple traits, you're juggling classes, and you're juggling specs. I think it's too much for Blizzard. I think it's too much to handle. I think it's too much balancing and trying to essentially balance the game, which in my opinion is not working at the moment. I'm actually a fan of them if they could just return back to the original tier set armors and tier set bonuses. I think that works for the game. I think everyone likes the concept of that. But as for Azerite armor, it's just not good. And especially when your character looks like everybody else. Example, if I go into the new raid, Battle for Danzalor, anyone who's a Kloss wearer is going to look exactly like me. Everyone's going to have the same piece of armor. There's also no uniqueness to my class. But those are some of the things I wanted to touch on, basically, on the current state of WoW, and kind of compare between Legion and Battle for Azeroth. Right now, BFA is just not in a good state, in my opinion. And again, this is just all strictly my opinion. Um, and let me know in the comment section below like what you think. Let me know if you believe that if WoW is in a good state now, or if WoW is still in a bad spot, or if it's just somewhere in between where you're just not sure yet, where if you're just unsure. That's what I'm looking for. Now, I don't want to talk about all negativity. There is some positivity in this game. One of the positivity is going to be, the raid that came out. I thought Uldir was a great raid when first released. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good amount of bosses. The difficulty of the bosses were also well done. I think the mechanics were fun, definitely. The only complaint that I have about it is that I wish that there was I don't know, like a mid-raid release somewhere in between, kind of like in Legion, where, at first we started with Emerald Nightmare, but somewhere in between we got, Trials of Valor, and that was a lot of fun. That brought a lot of excitement to the game, because now we were going to work on new bosses, and, maybe after we were done clearing Mythic Emerald Nightmare, we can go ahead and jump into some Trials of Valor and kill Helia, which, by the way, Helia was one of their best boss designs in Legion. It's personally my number 2 fight. I did like Mythic Gul'dan a lot more. I thought Mythic Gul'dan was the best fight in all of Legion. And I want to see more fights like that, actually. I think mechanics and boss fights like Helia and Gul'dan should definitely be in this game. Really good. Great job to the design team on that, and the developers who created that boss fight or boss fights. Not really focusing too much on the PvE just because I'm trying to also put my words together. But anyway. So, Uldir raid. Great introduction raid. Not the best raid, but it was a good introduction raid. Great boss, great mechanics. Maybe, what's this dude's name? Gahoon could have been a little... Maybe the rewards from Gahoon could have been a little bit better. Maybe like a 5 or 10 item level upgrade from everything else, but hey, it is what it is. The next thing I want to touch upon is actually Mythic Plus. Mythic Plus, in my opinion, I recently started getting into Mythic Plus. I think Mythic Plus is fun. I think it is engaging. I think it is challenging, but the lack of rewards from Mythic Plus is actually dog shit. Before patch 8.1, you weren't able to actually earn any Mythic Plus, or rather any Azerite armor from the end boss, because Blizzard didn't want players to farm the same dungeon over and over and over in order for them to farm the Azerite traits that they wanted, which again, I don't know why Blizzard does that. Let the player decide what they want to farm. Let the player decide how long they want to stay in this game. We'll touch about the RNG in a little bit as well, but again, let the player decide what they want to do. Why take away options away from the player? That's one thing I don't understand from developers, is when you remove the ability from the player from making the choice of what they want to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be what you want them to do. If I want to play WoW and grind, or rather farm I don't know, what's this place called? I'm thinking of a place right now. Underrot. If I want to farm Underrot all day, every day, in order to get a certain Azerite armor, let me get it. Why does it affect you? It doesn't. You're still getting my $15 a month. It's not a big deal. I'm going to bring this paladin back here. I don't want him to get healed. But, let me play the game how I want to play, and let me farm the content that I want to farm. This game is all about farming anyway. There is no working towards a reward anymore. It's all about farming, grinding, and hopefully, you get that RNG proc where you actually get the item that you want. And that's actually a really bad part of the game. I remember back in, going from Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, and Cataclysm, when a player wanted something, he could just go up to the vendor and buy that item that he or she worked for. So if I was going after a trinket, or whatever item it may have been, I'm totally dead here, by the way. Whatever item it may have been, as long as I was grinding out my justice points, or my valor points, or my PvP honor, or my conquest points in that time, and I'm working towards either buying a weapon or a chest piece or a belt, whatever it may be, let me work towards those rewards. Let me purchase what I want to purchase. After all, I am playing this game. But the way that the game works right now is just like you have to hope that it drops. Which again, I'm okay with that, but not to the extent that the way that Blizzard does it. It's just not good for the game. I think working towards a reward is good, but forcing a player to grind out, those rewards in the way that they make them do it is just not fun. And that goes back to the Azerite armor part. If they'd allowed Azerite armor to drop in Mythic Plus, the game would probably be maybe potentially even in a good state. Because people will be getting 370, like a Mythic 10 will give you a 370 Azerite armor. And they could have capped it that way too, that it can never, Titan Forge or proc or anything like that. They could have just left it that if you complete a Mythic 10, that you can get a 370 Azerite armor. And that your Mythic cache, your Mythic Plus cache is the only cache that can give you a 385. But they just, I feared, and this guy didn't get it. Anyway. But they just didn't do it that way for whatever reason. I'm going to die here again. For whatever reason, they didn't go with that approach. They just gave you no reward, and then you had to pray to the RNG gods if you got something off the chess piece. It just doesn't work out, unfortunately, and I'm sorry. That's for me as a player, that turns me off when I can't work towards a reward. And then they added a reward system into the game where you can finally turn in the currency if you have a Titan Residum. But then again, you have to farm so much of this in order to get the piece that you want. And again, that's not fun. You're still forcing me to grind an insane amount of currency in order to purchase an item. You give so little, but you want so much in order for me to get that item. And that sucks. That really does suck. I hope they fix the system in 8.1.5 or even 8.2. Who knows what they decide to do. I know that Azerite armor is here to stay. It's basically the game BFA is basically themed around Azerite armor, but right now the system is dog shit. And again, let me know in the comment section down below what you think. I personally think that Azerite armor is just not good for the game. It really, really isn't. Let's talk about PvP now. Let's talk about Battlegrounds. They introduced Brawl during Legion. I think Brawls are fun. Brawls are exciting. They do bring a new, how do I say this? Theme to the Battlegrounds and how players play the game. I think it's fun. I definitely do like the different objective, whether if it's, the War Song, capture 10 flags, or the 6v6, or, dunking on people in the mine game. I think all of that stuff is really fun. I think all that stuff is really great for the game. What I would actually like to see them is actually add more Battlegrounds, though. Like, we haven't gotten a Battleground since, pre-patch. And that's actually funny that I'm actually playing this exact Battleground right now. I mean, this one's okay, but it's not my favorite. It definitely reminds me of Strand of the Ancients. It's definitely actually at the bottom. It's probably my least favorite Battleground. It's just not fun. I would like them to introduce more capture the flag maps. I am a big fan of Warsong. I am a big fan of Twin Peaks. I think those maps are rather that game mode is fun. So I mean, they could introduce capture the flags and just different maps. Again, you could introduce the same game mode if it's on a different map, or rather a different environment. I think that works great for the game. Can you imagine playing, let's see here. Let's open up the map really quick. I don't know. Can you imagine playing Capture the Flag here in Slithering Gulch? This would be fun. Or what about in, let's go here. Long story short, like, it would be fun to play, like, game modes that already exist, like Eye of the Storm or Athi Basin, Capture the Flag, or Temple of whatever it's called with the orbs. Introducing new maps or battleground maps, but with the same game mode, it's good for the game. It generally is, because now people can basically play different maps on different areas and enjoy the game a little bit more versus just playing the same game mode on the same map every single time. The only exception would be is Warsong and Twin Peaks, because, well, It's the same game mode but different maps, and it's fun. You know, so let's touch on the next subject: rated battlegrounds. Rated battlegrounds, I feel, has been neglected. I think rated battleground was a huge success in Cataclysm, but only during the first season. I think rated battlegrounds in season 1 of Cataclysm was possibly the best one because it was a new game mode that was added. A lot of people were playing, and it was a group effort, a guild effort, a player effort, and sometimes players like myself, I would run into rank 1 players like Rekful and Ruki and Pooksy, and all these guys that that are still playing till this day. A lot of people that I look up to as players. But the fact is that, if you mention like, hey, let's do rated battlegrounds, there's really not a big community for it anymore. I'm not trying to say that there isn't a community for it, but it's just not that big. This is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not even gonna count that 7 one because it was just like literally one extra one, but it was 6 scroll wheels on my mouse. So here's the last one. So let's scroll down. Look at that. I got all the way to the bottom after 6 scroll wheels. It's unfortunate. Rated battlegrounds needs a true reward system and a sense of accomplishment, and not just a title. I personally have all the titles from rated battlegrounds. I have played at a very high level. I have achieved 2700. I have achieved a Hero of the Horde. But again, that's because season 1 in Cataclysm for rated battleground was the best season. Period. After that season, it just wasn't active anymore. People just didn't play rated battlegrounds as much anymore. I believe. I remember like my whole squad or my whole guild. Like after we got the titles and the rewards and stuff like that, that was it. We didn't even try in the next season. And I don't know how many people actually did try afterwards, because I just wasn't part of that group anymore. And then when I actually do play it now, I do it occasionally every week or so. There just isn't a big community for it. A lot of people are just doing YOLOs, and actually that's another thing. The purpose of those groups are just to basically, get their Azerite power for the week or for the day. There is no incentive to play rated battlegrounds at the moment. I think it would actually be cool if they added like a gladiator mount, or rather, an equivalent of a gladiator mount, but instead of that it flies. It's just on the ground, because when you're in a battleground, you're always on the ground. So maybe something like how they did with Warlords of Draenor, it was a ground mount. Well, maybe rated battleground should have a ground mount for people who achieve Hero of the Horde. Something very special. It's good to reward the players with a reward for achieving a prestigious title or a prestigious achievement or a prestigious rating. I mean, a lot of hard work goes into that. But all you get now is just Duelist and Hero of the Horde if you get it. But other than that, there's no sense of accomplishment. There's no true reward system in rated battlegrounds. In fact, the whole PvP loot system is also terrible. Sometimes you get the same items over and over and over again, but really what you really need are some trinkets. Like I could use a PvP trinket. I can use an upgrade to my bracers, which I have not received any. And sometimes your only upgrade comes from your conquest cap. So I mean, it really sucks. And this is coming from a player who has played high rated arena. I have achieved gladiator several times on different characters, such as my warlock, my death knight, and my paladin. I've achieved gladiator multiple times on those tunes, and I'm very proud of it. But at the same time, I hate the way how loot is distributed to me, because I don't have the choice of what I need to upgrade and what I don't want to upgrade. And that's unfortunate. That really sucks for me as a player. Jumping into arena now, though. I think arena is a great system, or rather, arena has improved in 8.1, but there was a lot of class balancing issues at the beginning of the game. I personally made a warlock. Playing a warlock for me was not fun. Playing a warlock for me actually sucked. It actually caused me to reroll different times. I ended up rerolling a shaman, but then I found out the shamans were trash. And then my friends convinced me to level up my mage, but turns out that I'm really, really fucking bad at mage, so I just never played the mage ever again. So, I decided, what, I'm just going to play the game on my warlock and just suck it up. Let me tell you, that was the worst decision I ever made in my life, playing this game. playing a class that was so broken, so unplayable, so funky that all you could do is just get mad at the game. And that's because my class just blowed at the time. Damn it, Blizzard. Just balance the game. And again, and the reason actually some of those issues even are or even existed is because some classes were overpowered, or some classes were just right, but my class was underpowered. And lastly, Azerite traits. You can't balance PvP classes, PvP specs, PvP talents, and then, you know, your regular talents on top of traits. It's too much to juggle, too much to balance. You can't balance and fix too many issues, because if you adjust one thing, you probably nerf the other, or rather, if you lower numbers, then maybe some things get higher. But now there's no balance. You know, if we go back to Wrath of the Lich King, which again was an excellent PvP expansion. If you go back to Mists of Pandaria, another good PvP expansion. You know, follow those formulas. Those were great PvP expansions. BFA in its first season is not a good PvP expansion. And again, this goes to balancing issues and not having a proper reward system, or having a way to pick the loot or purchase the loot that you're grinding or working towards to. You know, which then leads into another thing, which is something that, you know, the community has been asking for a long time, which is solo queue. You know, the ability to actually solo queue into a rated arena and match with a partner, whether if it's with the healer or whether it's with the DPS. You know, some players are just natural solo players. They maybe just don't have the opportunity to make friends, or maybe they don't have the opportunity to play that much, you know, and it's hard enough because, again, the way that this game is designed right now is that people want people with experience, which is not a bad thing. But for example, like if I go here and I want to play with a 2.4k CR player, he's going to deny me. Or let's look for another one. Like I'm going to I'm going to play with this guy. I'm going to tell him like, hey, low CR, let's just say 1900 experience out of example. You know, let's see if I get invited. I probably won't get invited. I'll probably get declined because, one, I'm not a healer, and two, I have low CR. Oh, look at that! I got invited. But that's not the point. I mean, point is he's probably bad too. I mean, yeah, he strikes me as bad anyway. Damn, that didn't work out in my favor. But anyways, the ability to not have solo queue in the game is I won't say it's a big issue, but it's something that the community wants. The community wants the solo queue. What's so wrong about giving the community options? You know, it's great for the game. It's great for the player. It makes the player play more. You know, but if those options don't exist, then, you know, players are forced to use the method that are currently available. But sometimes that method just doesn't work out. And I'm pretty sure this guy actually invited me because my item level is actually not that bad. Let me see what happens if I take some pieces off and I have a lower item level. All right. Let's see if I get here, dude. Let's see here. I'm a queue as a healer. You know, probably not going to get accepted because, one, I have a low CR, and two, I have a low item level. Damn it, I got invited again. This is weird. This is not supposed to work out this way. I don't know. Usually when I do this, like when I'm not recording or playing games, or rather where I'm just not streaming or recording this video, I 100% get declined all the time. You know what? Forget everything I just said. Just add solo queue. I think it's good for the game. Anyways, guys, I think I've reached the end of my my video here. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about World of Warcraft. I mean, I'm sure I touched on a lot of subjects. I'm sure I mumbled about some things a little bit over and over again. Again, this is just my first episode. I'm going to obviously try to get into the swing of it and, you know, get better at it. I did have some talk points, and I did go over through all those talk points in a Google document that I had here. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of World of Warcraft right now in its current state. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Are you just unsure? Are you currently bored? Or are you having fun with the game? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your feelings. Let me know what you would like to see in the game. Let me know your feedback. Let me know, what you would like them to add or something that you would like them to remove. You know, Blizzard as a community or Blizzard as a company, I think, has lost its touch on its player base or on its community for the last several years, and it's really unfortunate. It, I honestly think it comes down to Activision, who's probably making the shots. I think you guys have read a lot of articles about them and what's been going on with them and how Activision is influencing Blizzard. And rather than releasing games in a rather every 3 years or something or so every 3 to 4 years, they want to release games now every year, and maybe that's putting a lot of pressure on them because they're just not used to working in an environment like that. Is that going to affect the quality of the games? Possibly, because we've always known Blizzard to produce quality games. I can't think of one bad Blizzard game. You could say Diablo 3. Diablo 3 is not a bad game. It's a good game. Is it their best game? No, it's not. But it's still a great game. And again, you know, let me know your thoughts, let me know your feelings, leave a comment below. And if you like this video or if you want to participate in maybe the next episode of MMO-Talk, just send me a message. We can get together on the Discord and discuss this and have like maybe a discussion about this, whether if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, or let's do it. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And again, if you liked the video, give it a like. If you didn't, go ahead and dislike. Just let me know down in the comment section below, what can I improve on? What can I do better? Your thoughts, your feelings, etc. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You guys have a great day now.